I'm actually really, really, really bad at working hard. It's just a few tactics that I've found over the last few years that has turned me into a top performer. My natural state is that of like a retard, like a guy who's ADHD, who gets distracted and who can't complete big tasks and procrastinates and is demotivated. Like, that's who I actually am. But then I've been able to be so productive to create like a few $1 million in revenue in the last 2, 3 years. And trust me when I say it's not actually anything special about me, because I'm still like that retard version of myself when I don't follow the few tactics that we're going to talk about today. So this should like light your eyes up. You should be thinking, holy shit, okay, so because people can tell you like, oh, here's how to be productive, here's how to work hard, here's how to become successful. But a lot of those people were always like good at this stuff. A lot of those people were always pretty good at working. They've always been like nerds who got high grades. I come to you as a fucking retard who just has a couple of tactics that turns me into a high performer when I do them. And when I don't do them, I'm still a retard, right? So you should really be thinking, okay, shit, this is perfect. Like, that's actually such a good, like, piece of advice if Hamza has those normal shitty days like everyone else, but he's able to turn on the high performance compared to the people who are just kind of high performers all through the year. So here's a few of the tactics that I use. The first is a mindset of understanding how hard work actually works. And the phrase that I always use to myself that I want you to start thinking about is trudging through the snow. Hard work is like trudging through the snow. What I mean by that is that there are 100 or even 500 or even 1,000 battles in your mind, conscious thoughts of you wanting to quit or to not do the work, that you have to trudge. You have to kind of like walk through. You have to march through the resistance. So let's say I like just honestly before I sat down to record this video, I was getting a ton of it. I was literally pacing around my apartment. It was slightly too cold. I didn't want to record this right now. I was contemplating, should I change my diet? I was like, just making up other bullshit. Oh, I really feel like sitting down and reading. Don't really want to record right now. I'm kind of tired. I'm going to go to kickboxing in like 2 hours. Don't really want to, don't really want to, don't really want to. That's like the snow. That's the trudge. That's the resistance. And the ability to work hard is not having that resistance. It's getting it, but penetrating through it anyway. So the times where you feel like you want to procrastinate, the times where you don't do the work, the times where you don't feel good and you're like, I don't want to do it, don't want to do it. Literally working hard is getting those thoughts, but then doing it anyway. Do you get what I mean here? Like, discipline is getting the thought that you aren't motivated and you don't want to do the work, but then doing it anyway. Approach anxiety or having courage is having the fear of, for example, going to speak to that beautiful girl over there. The fear is inside of you, you're overthinking, but you do it anyway. It's the same with hard work. A lot of people think they can only work when their brain tells them, like, okay, let's work. But they don't realize that hard work specifically is the times when your brain is telling you, I don't want to do this right now, but you just command your body to get it started. The moment I sat down, got this little microphone ready, and I was just about to press record, I actually thought to myself, like, oh, this is actually going to be kind of fun. But I had like 5, 10 minutes of resistance beforehand where I had to penetrate through all those little layers of like conscious thoughts to get here right now. If I listened to those thoughts, if I didn't know the concept of trudging through the snow, I would have just listened to the thoughts and been like, oh, okay, sweet. I'll order some food. I'll watch some TV or some shit like a loser, and I'll just go to kickboxing later. And maybe, oh yeah, I promise I'll do work later on tonight. That's how most low performers live their lives. That's how I still live my life when I don't have the thought of trudging through the snow. There's walls of resistance. Maybe that's a better phrase we can use, is like running through the wall of resistance, and we get like 100 walls of resistance in our mind before we're about to work hard on a day that's actually going to be pretty challenging. So mark my words here as the first tactic I'm giving you, the mindset. Look forward to those walls. Look forward to that resistance, the snow that's covered outside of your house. because it's with penetrating through that is your ability to work hard. If you don't get those bits of resistance, then it's not hard work, it's actually easy work, right? It might be like a big task, but you were motivated to do it. It didn't require discipline. Discipline is used specifically when your brain generates thoughts saying, oh, I really don't want to do it, let's do something else, but you just end up doing it anyway. So don't feel sad the next time that you have resistance before a work task. Don't even listen to it. See it as like a test. Sometimes your own brain is testing you. You know how you've learned that women test you? Your own brain tests you. It tests you to see if you're a fucking bitch, and you'll listen to the little thought of like, oh, but if we just, watch some YouTube videos instead and we can just do this work later and I'll go to the gym after lunchtime. It's testing to see if you're a fucking bitch. When you had the plan to work at 11 a.m., then you work at 11 a.m. even if your brain is generating thoughts that say, oh, I don't really want to right now. You sit down, you start, and usually within a few seconds you actually feel better. But here's the thing, if it's really hard work, you'll continue getting those walls of resistance even throughout the task. So for me, I get the resistance before recording videos, right? Because it's a pretty strenuous thing to do, to sit down, to set up the camera and everything and get ready, right? But the moment I've started it, I basically never get any kind of walls of resistance when I'm doing the video, unless if I'm sick. Because right now, this is actually pretty enjoyable. I like speaking, I like giving advice. Okay, awesome. But when I'm doing a task that's harder for me, like for example, scripting videos, making a plan, like writing tasks for me, like if I'm scripting a YouTube video, for example, that's where I'll continue getting those walls of resistance, even inside of the task itself. And when that wall of resistance comes in, where it's like, oh, I just can't be arsed, come on, go do something else, just go gym, do something else. You have to break through and write the next sentence, break through and write the next sentence, break through and write the next sentence. This is the skill of working hard. Like, let's say if we're all coders, like software developers, and we're just tired, we're on like the 1,000th line of code, and our brain's saying, oh, just go get a coffee, it can't be arsed, just go check your phone for a bit, just do this bit later on after dinner or something. You just keep writing, you just keep showing up. The only time that you stop, like for example, when I actually don't do the work, is a phrase that Alex Hormozi said in one of his videos. He's like this big entrepreneur. And he said he works up until his output per unit of time decreases. Work up until your output per unit of time decreases. It's quite a complex wording. Basically, work up until your performance decreases significantly. So if, for example, I'm recording this video, and when I record videos, I have no thoughts in my brain. If I've recorded a bunch of videos and I'm a little bit sick and I'm a little bit tired and sleep deprived, whatever, and I start recording these videos and talking to you, but whilst my brain is saying some bullshit so I can tell I'm probably getting distracted, that's probably when I'll call it a day. Likewise, there'll be times where I can work in the morning really well, but when it turns to about 11 a.m., 12 o'clock, 1 p.m., my brain starts getting slower. Like I've just worked from like 3 or 4 a.m. to 1 p.m., for example, solid like 7 hours of actual work, couple of small breaks here and there. And that's when I'll notice, okay, like my output, like my performance, my efficiency of work has just dropped. I was writing each one of these YouTube scripts on average in 1 hour. Now this one, it's been like 45 minutes and I've only wrote like 2 sentences. My output's decreased heavily. Now I need a way, way, way longer break. So once you get to the point where the work is just not happening, then by all means stop. But you don't get to just preemptively speculate if that's happening. You have to actually try to trudge through the snow, because there's so many times where I cope to myself and I'm like, it's just not coming easy. It's just not happening today. I'm really tired. But I'm like, no, stop being a bitch. Trudge through the snow, see what happens. And I break through those walls of resistance, and it's actually a pretty good fucking work session, right? It's kind of like before you go to the gym. Some days you actually don't want to go. It's long, it's tiring, but you just fight through one step at a time, right? You pack the shoes, put on your earphones, drive over, start, warm up. And usually by the time you're inside with music on, warming up, and there's some people that you know, and there's a girl over there, and like you're in the social life, you don't want to look weird and tired in front of people. You're like actually having a pretty fucking sick workout. Some of the best workouts of my entire life have been, more often than not, they are those workouts when I wasn't feeling good. A lot of guys who have been to the gym will completely agree with me, right? So your feelings and the presence of these walls of resistance don't actually indicate if you're going to have a good workout or a bad workout, right? How interesting is that? So now, basically, you may as well fucking show up and just try working every single time without listening to like your thoughts or your feelings beforehand. Now, when you actually sit down and you keep getting walls of resistance, but it's been like half an hour and you've done literally what would usually take you like 1 minute, that's when you can start to think, okay, fair enough, it's just not happening today, I'll switch the task, whatever. But don't cope, don't lie to yourself, don't like smile, getting a bit happy like a little goblin thinking, oh, okay, so that's my out. Like next time I don't want to do work, I'll just like sit around for half an hour and then I'll think, yeah, I don't have to. Don't bullshit yourself. Another thing I learned, another tactic that helped is what we've just discussed is I use this principle called one step at a time. So sometimes the act of doing a work task is too much. Like I just can't imagine it. And maybe I'm tired and sleepy. And when I think about like, oh man, kickboxing, oh, it's sparring today. Oh, recording a video, recording like this scripted video, this video sales letter, like this VSL or whatever it is. I just don't have it in me. The truth is, we don't need to go and do the big task. We just have to do the prerequisites. Like in a quest in a video game, you don't just click on the quest and then you spawn in front of like the dragon that's like, the sort of big monster, like the boss of the quest. You have to go speak to the first NPC and he says, oh, there's a dragon who killed my wife and now, yeah, I want to get revenge. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll help you. And he's like, oh, well, you're going to need a dragon shield. And, oh, okay, I'll go get the dragon shield. Then you've got to go get the dragon shield. But to get the dragon shield, the guy who sells the shield wants a ball of wool or some shit. You're like, oh, okay, I'll go get the ball of wool. It's one step at a time, right? You don't just like click your fingers and you're at the dragon. It's one step, then the next, then the next. Okay, now I'll go get my food, all my potions. Now I'm going to go to the dragon. But before I go to the dragon, I need the final key. I need to go speak to that guy, whatever. It's one step at a time. It's the same with work and with workouts as well, like with fitness. We think, I just can't be asked, sleepy, tired, whatever. But you don't actually have to do the big task. You just have to do the next task. Let's say before I started recording this, I didn't have to like imagine like, I just can't be bothered recording this video. I thought to myself, all I have to do is just set up my tripod right here. All I have to do is get my microphone, plug it into my phone and hold this. And the moment I did that, I actually wanted to record. Let's say with workouts, you're thinking like, it's leg day, tired, maybe I'll go after dinner. But you're like, wait, I don't actually have to do the squats right now. I just have to change my clothes. I can change my clothes right now. So you change your clothes. Okay, I don't have to do the squats right now. I just get to put in my music in my earphones. So you do that and you're like, okay, this is pretty cool. Nice, okay. Bobbing up and down, okay. I don't have to go do the squats right now. I just have to put my shoes on. And then by the time you've done that, you're like, okay, right, fuck it, let's do it. I don't have to do the squats right now. I just have to drive over. I don't have to do the squats right now. I just have to do my warm-up. And by the time you've done your warm-up, you actually are excited to hit the squats. But when we speculate and presume the jump between where we were and the ultimate tension, the ultimate pain of like, the actual squats, PR, the kickboxing session, being in the middle of a work task, our brain can't comprehend that jump. But if we tell our brain, oh no, you only have to do the next step and the next step and the next step, it makes it way more easy for us to feel like that sort of positive momentum. I did an interview with a ex-Marine commando, like this super disciplined guy that I know, adventurer and everything. This was like early days of my YouTube channel, like back like 2020. I met this guy randomly on like a mountain and he was like climbing up the sharp, like the steep side of it. I thought that was like badass as fuck. I didn't even realize you could do that kind of stuff. And me and him connected. Turns out he was like an ex-Marine. Now he does all these like fitness challenges and everything. And I ended up doing a podcast, which you could go find if you want. It's super old, but you could search like Hamza Marine interview or whatever. And one of the things I asked him was like a tip on being disciplined and, having such incredible work ethic. And he said the same thing. He said one step at a time. You don't have to like think about the daunting mission, just what the next step is. So you could use this to work harder. Don't think to yourself like, oh man, got to sit in front of my laptop and you're visualizing like the pain of being in the middle of the task. All you've got to do is sit down in front of your computer. All you've got to do is just open up the document. All you've got to do is like read the first sentence or read the first page or just set up your camera or just put on your gym clothes. And usually when you've done just those first initial steps, you start actually wanting to do the work. Like that's where motivation comes in. So if you're in like one of those tired mornings, you're wearing like your pajamas, you're not in like work mode, you're not really feeling it, and you think, oh, I just can't be bothered working today. Because that was literally just me today. You just have to set up the next step and the next step, and then usually it makes it so much easier. Now let's talk about diet, because I actually think that diet plays one of the biggest roles in your ability to work hard, and people overlook this. Like if there's one thing you take from this video, let it be that the importance of diet in your work and productivity and in your cognitive function. I am someone who very much preaches the low carb diet for guys who are more focused on work, studies, and business in their lives. If, for example, you're training more like a professional athlete, if fitness is the most important thing in your life, I would understand if you don't want to take this advice. But for the guys whose biggest priority in life is work, money, success, studies, business, career, you should absolutely be eating zero carbs, zero sugars, zero carbs, zero rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes, vegetables, breads, pizza, pasta. I know that sounds crazy. You're like, wait, what? Even vegetables? Hamza's gone insane. Just try it for 1 or 2 days. Shut your fucking mouth about any kind of speculation if you've never done this before. Don't fucking be a retard, right? If you've never done this before, you would actually have to be a maniac to form any kind of judgments, right? Be honest. If you've never done this before, you would have to be a fucking imbecile to think that any thoughts you have about what I'm saying are worth anything, right? If you've never tried it before. Try it for 2 days. No carbs for 2 days. See how sharp your brain will be. This is called the keto diet. So basically, instead of eating like the full spectrum of food like most people will, you just eat fats and proteins. So you can have a bunch of cheese and meat and nuts and those kinds of things. Basically, meat will be the majority of your diet. I just stumbled upon a video yesterday which was titled like Andrew Tate on the carnivore diet. So that's the diet that I usually preach. And the carnivore diet is even one step above keto, where basically most of your calories is now coming directly just from meat. You might even avoid things like cheese and nuts and whatever. You're just having meat. So that's quite extreme. People are like, wait, what? Like meat is unhealthy, right? No, not really. Like just because like fat modern day doctors tell you meat is unhealthy, I personally don't think that trusting doctors is a good idea. They have a phenomenal track record of fucking up the health of the peasants, basically. Like if you trust the doctors just like you're the same way that like previous generations trusted them, there's a reason why cancer fucking skyrocketed after these malicious bastards told people that cigarettes were healthy because they got bribed for it. Then they got bribed to promote sugar and say that sugar was like a healthier alternative. Like nowadays they've reduced sugar, but now it's like healthy vegetable oils, which we now know is unhealthy. And the doctors will be 5 to 10 years slow in saying, oh yeah, by the way, vegetable oils that we've been recommending to everyone are actually cancerous as fuck. So it doesn't make sense. If you've got double-digit IQ, it doesn't make sense for you to listen to what a doctor says at all. It doesn't make sense. You listen to the more of the health influencers because they get heavily scrutinized. So the truth often kind of comes out. But also, the most important thing you can possibly do when it comes to your health and also your, in the relation of your work is just conduct an N of 1 experiment. You see, doctors and this nutritional research, it's all based on experiments. But the problem is you can't really do ethical experiments, and it can all be manipulated by dickheads who are getting bribes from companies. So it's a whole cesspit. The most useful type of experiment for you to ever listen to is an N of 1 experiment. N means number of participants, which is on yourself. You just experiment on yourself. Instead of being a scared little wuss, a little undisciplined little pussy who can't change his diet for 1 or 2 days, you just give it a try. You're like, why the fuck do people keep preaching this weird, unhealthy diet where you don't eat vegetables and you don't eat any carbs? But you try it for 2 days and you're like, oh shit, okay, I don't think I'll ever go back now. I just needed to feel it first. So getting rid of carbs is one of the single best things you can do to work harder. What it will feel like is your brain will just get so sharp, as if you've just done like 3 hours of meditation for free. It's incredible just how powerful it is. Now, it doesn't work for every kind of person. There's some people who actually give it a good try, but they're like the people who are more dependable on carbs, and that's okay, that's fine. But you should know. Like, you should know what happens when you go on a keto diet. You should just know, right? Like, it's like, how can you live like such a long life without knowing like what diet actually made you feel the best? This is the time for you to experiment. Go give keto a try for 2 days. Go give carnivore diet a try for a few days. See what happens. So that's with just removing carbs from your diet, because carbs cause a spike in blood sugar and in insulin. And then that usually basically turns you like kind of retarded and gives a lot of people brain fog. Not everyone, but a lot of people get pretty massive brain fog. And when you've been eating carbs for your entire life, you don't actually realize that you've got brain fog right now up until you've cut them out. So I've had enough periods of my life now where I've cut out carbs and I've been on keto or carnivore, where now I can actually feel when I've got brain fog, compared to most people who are just kind of like, not very aware of the fact that they're living life on a handicap up until they've had it removed. So consider that. The second thing with diet is also your eating frequency. So it doesn't really make sense when you think about it to eat around the clock, because when you eat, you put your body in the rest and digest mode. That's like, there's another one which is like, it's called feed and breed. You put yourself in the kind of like lounging around kind of energy. For example, if you like observe, like visualize a pack, like a tribe of lions, when they're hungry, when they have not ate, you can imagine they're ready to hunt. They're out, they're agitated, they're like in that sort of zestful energy. Imagine like a tribe of lions in your mind on like a sunny day, and imagine they've just ate like a fuck ton of meat. What are they doing straight after that? They're literally just going to lie around in the sun, right? They're just going to lie around in the sun. They're going to fuck each other. That's it. They're not going to go hunting again, right? When you eat, you don't want to hunt. When you eat, you don't want to work. Most people have to work after they eat because, they're employed to sit around. But anyone who's worked like a 9-to-5 job will know this. Like when people eat in like the 9-to-5 workplace, after lunchtime at like 1 p.m., productivity is basically non-existent. Like, people are so slow once they've ate because they're just digesting. Like, the digestive system inside of your body is actually so taxing that it literally takes energy away from your mental cognition. It doesn't imagine if we were hunters back in the wild. It wouldn't make sense for me and you to eat a big meal before we're going to go on a hunt, right? Like, if you got to control the hunters of your tribe, would you want them full or would you want them hungry? You'd actually want them hungry. Why? Because they'd be more focused. They'd be more motivated. They'd be lighter. Hunger is a phenomenal source of motivation to work hard. It is maybe the biggest source of motivation to work hard. Really think about it. Like, what is a human source of motivation to work hard? What is it? It's literally for hunger and for protection. These days, we're satiated and we're safe. You need to feel some of those primal emotions, but people eat around the clock. People are so scared of feeling hungry that they feel like they need to eat. And this is just my personal opinion, right? I don't respect like people who don't like hunger. I'll hang out with people, particularly girls as well, but I guess for them it's like evolutionarily different. But I'll hang out with people who are like, oh man, I'm so hungry. Oh, I'm so hungry. And I'm like, what the fuck? I just look at them like subhumans. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, there's girls that I've been with who they'll be like, oh, I just can't sleep, I'm hungry. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, just turn it off. Like, am I the only one who can just choose to feel hungry and kind of enjoy it and turn it off? Some people can't. Some people literally, they can't function. They get into bad moods and stuff. I just find that pretty fucking pathetic. It's like just childish in my opinion. As a man, you should be able to enjoy hunger and like use it as energy, as fuel. It's the same as like as ejaculation. It's the same as having full balls. Imagine there's a guy who's like, oh man, my balls feel full. He just has to fucking jack off like a fucking monkey, right? You'd be looking at him like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Are you like a fucking dumb little teenager, right? Because what is going to make you want to approach more women? Having just spasmed your little pee-pee beforehand, or having full balls, full heavy balls, right? Of course, the full balls, because you'll have more motivation. What's going to make you have more motivation and desire and purpose in your work? A full, satiated, fat little belly, or being hungry? It's of course going to be hunger, right? So hunger is like this weird psychological, like spiritual boost to your work that you should start to utilize every day. I want you to understand this. You should feel pretty fucking hungry every day. And not just hungry for a minute before you go eat, but I'm talking hungry for a few fucking hours. The way hunger works, by the way, it's basically a scam. Hunger is caused by the hormone ghrelin, and ghrelin spikes at the time that you usually eat, and it goes away within 1 to 2 hours, whether you've ate or you haven't ate. Like, if you try this tomorrow, you'll be kind of shocked. Like those days where you get hungry, let's say at 9 a.m., because you usually eat at that time. Don't eat for 2 hours. Wait till it gets to 11. You'll be kind of annoyed for a while, and before you know it, you'll just feel great again. You realize hunger comes and goes, not even based on if you've ate. That's the weird thing. People think food satiates hunger. It actually doesn't. It really doesn't. This is like the biggest fucking revelation scam that you'll realize. Hunger comes and goes whether you've ate or not. People who fast inherently know this. You get hunger waves which comes in, and if you eat or don't eat, within half an hour to 2 hours, the hunger goes away. So it's like, if hunger is going to go away without eating anyway, then you may as well disrespect hunger. You may as well not be a little bitch towards it, because hunger will give you that like psychological reason to work harder. Not just the psychological, but also the biological in the sense, or the physiological in the sense that like you'll have way less processes that are taking away from your brain's power. Like when you eat, it's not just that, this vague philosophical hunger is changing, your desire to work, but that you'll actually literally, your body gets put in a different state, which makes work way harder, right? Imagine if a lion hunted, brought down a buffalo, ate its full, and it's lounging around in the sun, and we force that lion to hunt again. Do you think its performance would be higher or lower? It would be lower. What's interesting is about nutrition is we're told so much that like eating gives you energy, carbs give you energy. It actually doesn't. If you fasted, you'll understand this. When you fast, you get like way more consistent energy throughout the day. You don't get the same dips that so many people get. But when you eat throughout the day, you're not only pushing away that like spiritual boost of hunger, which was so valuable for a young man who's ambitious, but also you're just putting yourself in that weaker, the tired, lethargic, like satisfied stage. Like if you imagine like a lion just like lying around in the sun. And that's awesome. I'm not saying to not enjoy that, by the way. It's just not when you're in like the work time, right? When you're in like work mode, you should be more focused on basically not eating anything so that you're in that agitated state with an empty stomach. There's like fucking weak little people who are like, oh, but I can't focus when I'm hungry. I can't focus when I'm hungry. It's like, grow a fucking pair of balls and just force yourself to focus, dickhead. It'll take you like 2 days and then you'll be fine. It's incredible, by the way. I will go as far as to say this, and I hope you take this seriously. Fasting is the #1 productivity tactic out there. I've done a lot of research on this, a lot of experimentation on myself. I have still yet to find something which is as effective as fasting. Fasting and also eating a low-carb diet. I mentioned low carbs before. I'm going to tell you one more thing. I went to dinner, this was like years ago, like 2021, 2022, with a friend of mine who was in the gym, and he was like this like super health conscious guy. Like he was into like spirituality. I didn't really understand these things back then. And he told me of this book he read, and he had this particular diet where he didn't eat carbs, and I didn't really know it too much at the time. I kind of knew keto, but I just didn't really like know too much, right? So we went to dinner once, and he got sweet potato, and he was like, looking a little bit like guilty, and he went, yeah, I'm just going to have something nice today. And I was like, yeah, sure. We ate it, and as we were paying the bill, he came up to me and he went, oh man, I don't know how you guys eat like this. And I went, what? And he went like, yeah, like carbs, like I feel it, man. It's so horrible. I feel like he was saying like he felt it. And I was like, what? Like I couldn't grasp that he had just ate like a bit of sweet potato, like, like 100 grams of sweet potato, and he could feel the difference. I couldn't grasp that. I was like so surprised that he said that. And he was like, yeah, man. Like, and I was like, what? Like, I was interested. I was like, what do you feel? Like, how does it feel? And he went like, yeah, like I just got mad brain fog. I feel like a bit stupid right now. I feel a bit dumb. And I found that so interesting. But there was something he said after that that literally stuck with me for all these years. He went, yeah, when usually when I cheat on my diet like this, I'll feel it for usually about 2 to 3 days afterwards. I was like, no way. Because when you eat like a normal diet, balanced diet as the fucking fat doctors want you to eat, you don't feel very different based on what you eat because you're always in a state of brain fog and lethargy. You don't know your abilities. But when you cut out like 99% of foods and you just eat like keto, carnivore, and you reintroduce something back into your diet, you realize just how much that one food was affecting you. And that's when it's interesting. That's when you're able to realize, like, holy shit, if I eat fruit, I have brain fog for literally 3 days. Like, it's the same with me because I remember this was about 3 years after that point, or about 2 years after that conversation I had with that friend. I was very much on the keto carnivore diet. I was eating like a kilogram of meat a day and a bunch of like cheese and eggs. That's the only thing I ate, and my brain was sharp. And I took my business from like 20K a month to 150 or even 200K, right? So I was doing really well. And one day I was ordering from Nando's, which is like a restaurant in the UK. And I was like, fuck it, I want some sweet potato. And I think I even remember thinking about my friend who mentioned the sweet potato because he wasn't eating carbs and I wasn't as well now at this point. But I was like, fuck it, it's like a bit of a cheat day, whatever. I ordered the sweet potato with my usual meal, like chicken thighs and whatever, and I ate it. It was delicious. And I noticed the brain fog within like 10 minutes. And I was like, oh yeah, that's crazy. Like, it's already the end of the workday. It's fine, whatever. The next day, when I woke up at 3 a.m. to work as usual, I noticed just how harder it was to work. I literally had about like 200, maybe 300, like probably about 200 grams of sweet potato. And the next morning, I felt the difference still. Like, when you've been so consistent on your diet, eating the same foods every day, waking up at the same time, working on the same kind of task, you notice the difference when you eat something like a little bit of sweet potato. I'm telling you, there's times where I've ate something like an apple and I have literally felt the way that it's affected my body negatively. When you eat like a general balanced diet, you don't feel the difference. So you think, oh yeah, I'm not the kind of guy who's sensitive to this. I never knew that I was sensitive to this stuff up until I first went on the carnivore diet, where I basically just ate meat. I do like a slightly easier version of the carnivore diet, which is like keto carnivore, where I'll eat meat and cheese and eggs. And that's when I noticed the difference of having a few of these like carb things, which I thought were fine for me. It's incredible. And I literally have had times where, people online say like fruit is fine and everything. So I start adding it in. It feels pretty good, it tastes delicious. I go to the gym. Performance in the gym is pretty good. Don't get me wrong. Like, carbs are pretty great for fitness, right? But for mental cognition, they're fucking terrible. And I'll like start to notice that my work rate's not as good. I stutter more in conversations. I'm not as smooth when I'm talking to a girl. When I'm like trying to work in the morning, it's a bit harder than usual. And I never want to admit it to myself that it's the carbs that I'm eating. It's just because they're delicious, and I'm like, I don't want to remove it. I'm like, oh no, it's sleep, it's this, it's this. When I eventually remove the carbs, what's interesting is for 1 or 2 days, I still have the same symptoms. And it's usually about 3 days in, that's when it starts to feel like I have this free 2 to 3 hours of like meditation, like this like stillness of my brain, this sharpness of my thinking. It's incredible just how much of a difference it makes. So hopefully you take this seriously. Remove carbs from your diet and just eat like once or twice a day. Don't eat in the morning. Don't eat around the time that you're working. I know it sounds crazy. There's always like a bunch of fucking retards who disagree with this advice. And I always just think to them like, it's bro, like, why are you giving any opinion whatsoever when you haven't tried it? If you haven't tried it, either shut the fuck up and don't think about this again, or just give it a try. The last thing I'll just say is having a good reason to work hard, long-term thinking, having a purpose and a mission and a goal of something, more than just the requirements of resources, but rather the lifestyle that it will give you, the people that you'll get to meet, that basically just having more motivation for the end result of the work, constantly reminding yourself the goal that you're getting towards. And one interesting thing I learned today is how dopamine actually basically controls how much like long-term thinking you can do. Your dopamine levels will correlate with the shortness or the longness, the length of your thinking. If you've got fried dopamine receptors, you won't really be able to think long term. You'll only be able to pursue short term pleasures, because the dopamine is kind of like the pursuit molecule, the molecule of more, the molecule of pursuit. And so if your dopamine's all fucked up because you've been watching too much content, maybe you scroll, maybe you fap, maybe you edge, which is one of the worst things you can do. Like, you're just jacking off, but you like keep yourself there for like hours. And if you do that, what you might find is you don't actually have like the desire to actually work on the tasks that require like a lot from you. I find that when I go on a dopamine detox for like 1 or 2 days, it instantly refreshes my desire to work hard. So if you are finding like you don't have that desire, in the next like few weeks or months or so, try and remember this. It's usually a dopamine issue, and you never want to admit it because you've added like nice fun things to your life. Maybe you thought like, oh yeah, I'll play some video games, or I'll stay up later, or I'll watch some TV, or whatever it is. And it's just never ever worth it. When you fuck up your dopamine levels, you fuck up your ability to actually desire doing the work. So you should do whatever it takes to keep your dopamine low, eating like low satiating foods, like low flavor foods, not watching TV, not like playing video games, not scrolling, not even having these apps on your phone. You've got to live like kind of like a monk these days to get away from this bullshit. And I highly recommend that. Like, it just takes like 2 days on a dopamine detox, and you instantly want to work hard because it's like the most fun thing you could do with your day. But when your dopamine levels are fucked up, you don't want to work. So I hope that helps you. The top link, or the only link in the description, is to Adonis School. As I always mention, it's the place where you belong. You learn these kinds of things in such an advanced way. Like, you're learning something which is so interesting right now. And the man that you become when you join Adonis School is like the dream version of you you've always wanted, but you just needed more support to become. You join because you want to become more of like the real man version of you, the best version of you. And that's what you get inside of Adonis School with the support that we give to the members in there. You get a tribe of guys who basically have the same kind of goals and ambitions and values as you, which means that you make faster progress because everyone around you is doing these things, and there's like shared competition. There's like, it's inspiring to see a guy who's younger than you make more money than you in his business. You're like, holy shit, that just like broke a belief that I didn't even know that I had. I thought like I couldn't really make so much money because I'm young, and here's a guy making 5 times more than what my goal is. It's things like that which are just so valuable, so valuable. And you just become that version of you that you're striving towards, but just faster, and you're more guaranteed to actually hit that goal of yours. So just go give Adonis School a try. It's the top link in the description. Click on that, see the details. I really genuinely think you're the kind of person who would like it if you watch this entire video so far. Just go click that link right now. Go back. Mwah.